Good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Wednesday, June 9th, and the time now is 2 o'clock. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Friday, May 28th, then on June 3rd, and on Friday, June 4th. The committee will hear and accept testimony on Bill 55-36, COR, the Fiscal Year 2022 Appropriation Act, as requested by the Governor, relative to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs Fiscal Year 2022 budget request. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me today. We have Senator Sabina Perez, we have Minority Leader Senator Chris Duenas, Senator Tony Ada, Senator Joanne Brown, and Senator Tello Tadiwi. General rules for this public hearing. Those testifying on behalf of Bill 55-36 COR relative to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs have been seated, and they are on the panel. And we have Mr. Timogen, the Director of Veterans Affairs Office. And after the panel has been all sworn in, then he'll introduce all his staff. I just remind the staff that when you do speak, the first time you speak, you identify yourself. Then after that, you won't have to repeat who you are. We'll know from there. Okay, written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my letter to the staff with written testimony for photocopying. And if you do have any testimony, it should be summarized to about 5 minutes. I advise you that this hearing is from 2 to 3:30. Okay, so we'll hopefully wrap it up within the hour and a half. That those testifying be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance of why you're here, which is the Budget Act of the Veterans Office. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for this proceeding. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You'll state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the Sergeant Armed and the panel members to please rise, and you'll be sworn in by the Sergeant Armed.
Kindly raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, on all information that you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, or in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Mr. Chair, they're all under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Will the panel please have a seat? I will now ask Mr. Uggan, Director, to present your budget. Not your request for additional, but your budget. All right? And then we'll get to that question that I know you want to be able to speak about it. All right, Mr. Uggan?
Half a day, Mr. Chairman. Senator Perez, Senator Duenas, Senator Ada, Senator Brown, and Senator Tadiwi. Good afternoon. I'm here today with my staff. To the right of me is Ms. Lucy Perez, Special Coordinator, Tanya Eubanks, Veteran Service Representative, and my Administrative Assistant, Ms. Michelle Uggan. Before we begin to discuss the budget, I have a few words to say. To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. It's a quote from President Abraham Lincoln. Good afternoon. My name is Pierre Timogen, retired Senior Master Sergeant, United States Air Force, Director of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. I am a grandson, a son, a father of 3 veteran sons, and the primary giver of a veteran, who is my sister. Over the past 11 months, the staff and I have experienced and bore witness to what the office needs to operate effectively and efficiently. To the best of our abilities, we have executed the services to all the veterans and their families with minimal to zero funding. Today, we are here to openly discuss solutions and assist us in continuing to achieve excellence in customer service to the veterans who have sacrificed their time and lives so we all can continue to enjoy the freedoms we have today. It is our duty never to forget the sacrifices of these heroes and their families. Nothing means anything until one does not have the freedom to think, the freedom to speak, the freedom to roam, and the freedom to act. The Guam Office of Veterans Affairs mission is to care for the veterans, their families, and survivors when they return from harm's way. We have identified the necessary resources to meet GOVA's obligation to provide timely, quality health care services and benefits to the veterans. This includes the U.S. Naval Cemetery located in East Hagåtña, the quarter-acre of a lot, and the PD State Cemetery, whose footprint is 10 acres, as audited by the National Cemeteries in 2018. It is projected an estimated internment of estimated 300 plus veterans and eligible family members in 2022. The resources requested in this budget will not fulfill the gaps to allow Veterans Affairs to deliver on the commitment to veterans through investments in personnel, efficient business practices, and technology. Veterans Affairs will continue to work with federal, state, and local partners, including veteran service organizations, to best utilize the funds requested to meet our mission to veterans, their families, their caregivers, and to those that survive them. Mr. Chairman, we are now ready to answer any questions based on the submitted budget from the administration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tim. You know, looking at your budget, I know that the budget is the ceiling proposed, directed by the administration. Am I correct?
Senator, I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you go.
All right. The budget you submitted identifies 768,605. Am I correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, and I know that's way below what you truly need. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll get to that, but I'd like to also recognize the oversight chair of the Veterans Affairs, which is Senator Peter Terlais, also joined us this afternoon. Okay, do you have any prior year obligations for your personnel service obligations?
Negative, sir.
Okay, have you procured the majority of the budget supplies and equipment for the year? Have you procured, whatever money you had, did you already budget?
Yes, sir.
And project to be spent?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the status of your capital outlay projects that's to be implemented in FY 2021? Are there any capital outlay projects? CIP, nothing?
Nothing.
Wow.
Well, the caveat, sir, is that the CIP projects are part of the grant that we're applying for on July 1st for the improvement, renovation, and expansion within the current footprint of both cemeteries.
Okay,
so that's probably outside of the administration building at ASAN, and whatever's not covered in the grant will be in the future will determine what type of and the amounts of money that we'll need for those other products that are not
so
covered.
You're applying for a grant for all your CIP projects, is what you're saying then? Am I correct?
Not all, but whatever is allowed within the grant. And then whatever is not, then that's what we need to get covered.
Okay, can you identify, is you still in the draft form at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you received any federal assistance funds at all?
Negative.
Okay. How many, based on your budget, you have so many classified and unclassified personnel for 2021. As I look at your budget, like I've done to the other agencies that we've seen, you have quite a few. Do you have any vacancies?
Yes.
And
we have quite a few vacancies.
And what's the status on them? Because you were funded, am I correct?
No, we're only funded for one body, sir.
You aren't authorized any funding for the other positions?
We're only funded for the warm body, sir.
Okay, then maybe we need to fix that. Right? Would that be a... Okay. Well, I think this is the key question you're waiting for. Do you feel the department's FY22 budget request represent the true needs of the department to meet its core mission and objectives? Correct?
Yes.
Does it?
Say that again, sir?
Does your budget request meet the true needs of the department to meet its core mission and objective?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have any of those documents available to present to us? Not just talk about it, but something we can hold in our hand and we can follow along as you talk about it?
Yes, we do.
Okay, if you can provide that to my staff so my staff can get that, make copies.
We have copies.
Oh, you have copies? Great. If we can get the copies, and then we can continue on with your testimony. And just keep in mind, Mr. Uggan, that your documents, such as any budget documents that you want to make amendments to, submit that officially to us, other than what you submit here today. Okay?
Staffing pattern.
Mr. Uggan, and are you aware that the Guam legislature, that this body has requested that the governor provide you $5 million from the ARP?
I'm not aware.
Okay, well, we did send a letter to the governor, and we have a resolution that's requesting that out of the ARP funds, $5 million be provided to Veterans Affairs to assist you in all your capital improvement projects and your equipment and so forth. So, since I have the document, as soon as everybody else got it, then the only one caveat to that is that we're hoping on the legislature side that none of those funds are used for personnel. We'll figure out the personnel side funding, but when it deals with CIP, non-reoccurring costs, one shot, one kill, right? I know, Tim, you like that. That $5 million, I know, is a blessing for you. I know there's two documents here. Are they pretty much the same thing, right? Oh no, they're pretty much the same.
Sir, one is for the administration office that handles the VSRs.
Remember?
Oh, sorry, Lucia Perez with the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. Lucia Perez with the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs.
Okay, there you go.
So the documents before you are two separate pages. The format looks the same, but one is for the administration, which takes care and handles the VSRs, the Veteran Service Representatives, who take care of our veterans when they walk in. The second one is for the cemetery, and this is for both the PD Cemetery and the East Agutnia Memorial Cemetery.
Just curious, you have your staging for Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Is that for food?
That is for stage setup, sir. So on that, you would see that we have, when we had the Memorial Day activity, which you blessed us with your presence. So all that takes some money and funding to put together. This year, we were fortunate through the different veteran service organizations' assistance, we were able to put together a beautiful ceremony for our veterans.
Okay. But you identified here catering, 2 events, 4,500, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You know, I'm just looking at this, and they're 2 of the same forms?
Yes, this is how the Bbmr budget forms look like. That's why I had to clarify. If you look at the top left-hand corner, one says administration and the other one says cemetery. So the form breaks down your different schedules. You have your sub B, Schedule B is contractuals, Schedule C is supplies and materials, Schedule D is equipment, Schedule E is the miscellaneous, and Schedule F is the capital outlay.
I think Ms. Salas, right?
Paris.
Paris, I'm sorry. Apologize, Ms. Paris. Nice thing, the only thing I really like about this is nothing to do with personnel. It's providing funding for everything else,
Yes, sir.
which is very good. What's the total amount, total for both pages together as one?
For both places, the total capital outlay that we are looking at $391,800.
391. Okay. Mr. Hogan, is there anything else you wanted to present that would help you out in the year for 2022? You're asking for additional 391. I can understand where you're coming from, and I can agree with it. I just need to figure out where to find the funds and convince my colleagues to support that. Is there anything else you wanted to address that concerns you?
No, sir, but you know that would be a welcome and greatly appreciated effort for this body to find some supplemental income to help us with the infrastructure so we can move our agency forward. There is a lot of things that are happening that we've been doing to bring the agency to the forefront, to include upgrading and implementing digital record keeping. So, you know, we're going to go from the Stone Age to the superhighway information technology age within the next year, right? As we are working with our brothers from the Utah State Veterans Affairs Office that are going to help us get us there. And with the 2 grants that we're going to apply for, is also going to allow us to the cemetery to function for another 5 or 6 years. And then at that time, we're going to have to find something, either wait out and hope that the DOD turns over the property adjacent at the top of the cemetery. That will allow us 10 to 20 more years. So, you know, that's the only thing I would have to say. And thanking all the organizations that has helped and the staff here. I mean, we only have one classified employee at the cemetery, Mr. Chairman.
One classified?
Yes. So, but that's just an example of all the volunteerism and the support and the love from the community for the veterans and their assistance in coming to help us out. So I just want to thank them for that.
Well, Mr. Ogden, I'm going to ask you straight up. Submit a letter and request maybe in part of your changes in your budget that you asked that quite a few of your positions turn to classified so we can get, there's some, hopefully some continuity of the employees and they don't believe that they'll be gone tomorrow and they believe that they have a job that they can continue. Because I know that most of them, if not all of them, or maybe I should just say all of them, they all contribute. And they want to stay. But if they don't know what tomorrow may be, they're going to be looking for a job. And until you change, until you make that move, Mr. Ogden, to request that all the positions be classified and they fall under the protection of the civil service and the whole program, I'm willing to support that because I believe there's, as a veteran myself, if you needed help, donation or whatever, just let me know and I'll provide you a donation. I'll provide you all the water for your whole memorial event. It wouldn't have hurt me at all. I've done that before. So all I'm going to ask you is that, and before I ask my colleagues to speak, are there ongoing negotiations right now with DOD to get more property? Because I know a lot of the lands around you are wetlands. And I'm just concerned is if you ask for it and it just keeps sinking on you, maybe they can help do the Army Corps Engineers evaluation, making sure they're giving you land that's worthy. Not land that's put a building and then it just sinks and then you got nowhere to go but spend more money. That's what I'm worried about.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I've already spoken to, and the governor and Ms. Vera Tapasnia are working on that to get us that piece of property. I know they had meetings with Admiral Mononi as per our request for the return of that specific parcel for our expansion of the cemetery. So we also did a walkthrough with the DOAG, the Department of Agriculture, just to take a look at the topography and what type of wildlife and runoff from Masu River Pond affects the cemetery. So yes, we will require Army Corps of Engineers if and when that property is returned to us for use. It's a large parcel, so maybe we don't need to use all of it, so we can channel the water away from the cemetery, or however the powers that be or the SMEs that are going to be doing this type of survey and examination, then we can take it from there. But in about 3.5 years, that cemetery is going to be full capacity.
All right, sir. With the $5 million that this body's asked for, that the governor gives you for ARP, your 391 would be covered instantly. If they don't provide that, we'll figure out a way how to take care of you. All right, Mr. Churkin?
Thank you.
And I would ask now the Oversight Chair, Senator Peter Tlai, if you have any questions you would like to pose to the panel.
I do, Mr. Chair, but before I go on, I just want to ask Tim about the grant that supposedly being prepared for the expansion of the cemetery in Piri. What is the status of that, Tim?
So thank you, Senator, for that question. So as I mentioned earlier, that we are in the process. The deadline is July 1st. We are working with the staff here to ensure that we meet the requirements that are in the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and that we meet those requirements. We are going to, the idea is because we don't have any land to acquire, we are doing in-place improvements and renovations. So that would enable us to get us a couple more years out of the cemetery, meaning that we will create and build more crypts with the current footprint that we have. We already have a plan and a vision there, Senator.
So, Tim, I would think that before we even start the processing of the grant, have we initiated some kind of a letter to the Navy regarding, our interest in expanding the cemetery on beyond the fence, especially on the east side and the south side? Are
Yeah.
we going to do that before we even
Oh,
do
of
the
course,
grant?
but that's not going to be included in this grant that we're applying for in July 1st. As I mentioned, we're applying for the grant for the current footprint because we don't have access to the property surrounding us.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
so-
the current footprint would be within the fence?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, and I'm tracking it. We're okay. That next year or whenever that property is available to us, then that will be a more significant project, which is going to take some time for it to come to fruition.
Tim, thank you very much. My first question would be if you were not given the budget cap by Bbmr, what budget do you think the agency would truly have in order to fulfill its mission? Because I understand that there is an ongoing preparation to allow, give the Veterans Affairs the funding. But I have some questions on those things, and my question would be mostly on statistics and part of the programs and the money. So what is your ideal budget?
$2.4 million, sir.
How much?
$2.4 million.
2.4 million. And I'll mention that also because I got that on my note. Question number 2, Tim. According to the U.S. Veterans Administration statistics, they're listing that we only have 10.026 veterans living on Guam, which is 6.29% of our population. They also said that veterans make up 6.6% of the total population in the United States. These are the population numbers they are using to determine the resources they devote to veteran services here in Guam. Does that number seem right to you, Tim?
Senator, I'm not sure the date of your data, but no, those numbers are not correct, sir. In fact, we can say today that there are 28,273 veterans on Guam that have active files in our office in ASAN, which is the reason why that $2.4 million will size right the agency in order for us to provide the services that all the veterans require. So,
and this is, let me just share my thoughts in as far as percentage is concerned. If only 2.6% veterans, or if only, if only 6.29% of our population are veterans, and the average in the United States is 6.6%. Does this make any sense, Tim?
I can't say yes or no to that question, Senator. I don't understand the reasoning or the math to that and how it applies to our local state office, but our numbers here are 28,273 versus what's recorded in Hawaii of 10,000. So that whatever number they're using, and the 6% nationwide is also holds true for Guam's population, because of 170,000 and 28,000, it's roughly around 6%. So I would say that number would be accurate if that's what you're asking me.
Yes. And you know, the thing is, Tim, I'm just a little bit concerned because with the numbers that I have taken or was given to me, we have fewer veterans here in Guam than the national average. Wouldn't you say so?
I don't have the data in front of me, Senator, but that if you're talking about a national average, but the Guam would be in the highest level there.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So you know, the thing is, I was just looking at the 6.29% versus the 6.6%. So on my trustful calculation, I would think that we have fewer veterans than the national average. And I don't know if, and I don't want to second guess, but I know that with the 6.6 and the 6.29, I would come up with something like that. Okay, that's fine, Tim, because I guess when you go back and make those calculations in your office, you will find out that I'm actually right on my calculation and that we have fewer veterans than the national average. Now, Tim, how many recorded, documented, and verifiable veterans does the Guam Veterans Office have on file?
Senator, 28,273 physically verified, confirmed, and filed in ASEN.
28,000.
273.
Okay. You know, the legislature passed a bill allowing residents to opt in their information from DMV and to the Office of the Veterans Affairs to better account for our veterans. How many veterans have opted into that law altered by the Speaker, Senator Torlai?
What was the number? 928.
928.
That's
Are you sure? Because what would it take to have a true and accurate account of veterans from Guam? What would it take, Tim? Because I'm still kind of worried about the numbers that are being put out.
Senator, that's what we're actively trying to accomplish, right?
Okay.
So this first, we had to clean it up, okay? So we're there. Now we're going to take it a step further with all the files that we have. We're entering a partnership with the State of Utah Veterans Affairs to help us automate our system so that we can have the data readily available instead of manually counting the amount of people that we have registered at the Office of Veterans Affairs. What it's going to take is continue the extensive community outreach, being accountable as the custodian of the data registry for veterans, and being able to send that message out and ensure that we don't leave any veteran behind and that they're fully aware of what their benefits and what they're eligible for. So the end game is that we just started this path to make it right for all the veterans. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
been
so
a
we don't
daunting
have-
task with duct tape, Band-Aids, and glue, but we're doing it.
Okay, so we're still in the dark as far as accounting for at least for the 2020 numbers of veterans on our island.
Yes, sir. We're
yeah.
rectifying that right now, and we
Yeah.
have an aggressive community outreach program. And then that is the goal, sir, to be accurate daily.
And I give you a lot of credit, Tim, for that because, you know, that's not easy to get. Okay, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Senator.
Another question that I wanted to ask is that in fiscal year 2020, the budget of the Office of Veterans Affairs was $499,248, and the proposed 2022 budget is at $768,605, which is, I would think, like 54% above. If you compare the 2020 to the 2022, and that's only like 2 years. And I would think that it is the largest percentage that ever come about on my table on the increase of the governor's budget. So it's like, it represents like 54%. But I know and I understand that because we have worked together, Jim, on expanding mitigating, and all those things that we need to satisfy the missions of the Veterans Affairs, and I give you a lot of credit on that, because I know you've been working on those things. No? No, some more. Tim, another question that I wanted to, and I guess you are requesting like 2.4 million for the budget of the Guam Veterans Affairs Office, which is nearly 400% increase over fiscal year 2020 budget. And I have to really agree with you that the veterans of our island deserve more. The more veterans benefit consular you have, the more veterans benefit and services we can get to our veterans. Our veterans deserve to be buried with dignity and with proper equipment, proper cemetery maintenance, and it is the very least that we can do to honor their sacrifices. And I'm counting on you because I know that you're in for the job. And thank you. Another question that I wanted to address is, you have said that you want 6 million that will be dedicated to capital. Am I quoting this right? 6 million is what? I'm hearing 5 million, but according to what my reading is, that you want 6 million. Just say yes, and naman mahuli kita.
Just a reminder, you're under oath, okay? Continue on, Mr. Agustin.
And this is supposed to be dedicated to the capital improvement projects that aren't covered under the grant stipulation and requirements such as building a new one-stop center for veterans, expanding the cemetery, and erecting the monuments. Have these been included in your request for the American Rescue Plan Fund? Because you know that qualifies. The things that you mentioned, that you wanted to meet the missions of the veterans, those requests that you put in, them qualifies for the American Rescue Plan Fund. So maybe if we're seeing a shortfall at the end, maybe we can work things out and give you some more money, because I know you need more money. It's not easy to maintain the veterans with the numbers of people that you have. Okay, another thing, let's go forward, because I think the chairman is wanting to address something else. Tim, your budget shows vacancies for a veteran service officer, an administrative service officer, a records management officer, which I was before, a veteran cemetery maintenance supervisor, and a Guam veteran cemetery worker. Are these positions in the process of recruitment? And what effects does it have on the operation of office to these positions when this position occurs? I know it would probably invigorate your your short folks, but this is what I'm seeing on my documents.
So currently, Senator, if I may, so those positions, yes, are on the books for us. They're not currently recruiting. They're not open. These are positions that have not been filled. And we desperately need those positions in order to move the agency forward so that we can obtain the excellence in customer service to provide to the veterans. That we only can do as much as we can with what we have. And so at some point, we're going to reach the limit of our capacity with what we have. And hopefully that's not tomorrow, but I can't say enough about how we desperately need the positions that are on the books. but also the positions that we actually need to make the agency whole.
Okay.
These are just positions that, by attrition, we have not been able to fill.
Okay. You know, you requested, Tim, you requested for 4 vehicles, right? And to meet the challenges on your, challenges for medical, you know, appointments and things like that. Did you request for 4 vehicles? Vehicles.
We were going to apply for the grant, but thankfully our request went through the administration and GRT was able to assist us with the transportation needs. That is one of the grants, the VA transportation grant, the rural grant, that we are also applying for after we're done with the cemetery grants, the 2 cemetery grants. So, no, we did not receive any funding for those 2 vehicles that we requested for, 2 vans. And yes, we have a funding source that we're going to apply for via the VA Rural Transportation Grant. And currently, I believe there's 1 or 2 that are being provided on call from GRTA.
Because, you know, several weeks ago, I did have several buses, several vehicles from mass transit to be mobilized for the use of our veterans. So I think that's an ongoing type of program. So I want to thank Xiao Babauta regarding that also. Tim, my last question is, you're requesting 12 new laptops to update your system to be in compliance with the database and entry requirements for the Federal Veterans Administration health and benefit programs. And I know that's very critical on your part. Does this mean that your current system are not in compliance?
You can answer that.
Senator, I'm Lucy Perez, and I would say, yes, this current system is not in compliance. And that's
Okay.
why in the budget, the capital outlay, you see there to establish a network, which we are working with the Office of Technology on. So what that will do is it will ensure that all of our veterans and also our employee information are kept confidential when it goes via the internet service. So we're taking a look at that, and then it's also a necessity so that when the opportunity comes to connect with the federal site, the VA, federal VA, then our VSRs or VSOs will be able to do so.
And I have to really support that because, you know, we talked about the numbers that we're not really quite sure if we're 100%, and this system would really create a satisfying you know, job in as far as getting what you need.
Yes,
and
sir.
maintaining that as probably an historical document under Public Law 6-64.
And sir, just to also, you mentioned laptops. I just want to make sure that you understand that when we have the laptops for the VSRs, this is a really important tool because when the VSRs need to do a home visit, or as recently going to the hospital to help a veteran get information so that he and his family can go to Hawaii to receive their medical services, that's why it's really critical. So if you look at the capital outlay, it may seem huge, but this is a very important tool to have our VSRs. It's a very important investment.
And of all the requests that you put in, I think that's one of the top priorities that we need to get going. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much, panel. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Terlai. I'd like to also recognize my Vice Chair, Senator Amanda Shelton, has joined us. And I'll ask Senator Perez if she has any questions. And just remind my colleagues, we have to end in 45 minutes, okay? Because we have another budget hearing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, Director Guåhan, Ms. Perez, Ms. Eubanks, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the last name, but
Miss Guåhan, Michelle Guåhan.
Ms. Guåhan?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for being here today. So I'll try to make it quick since we do have a time limit. So just to kind of go back, recap. So currently, do you have 12 staff currently at Department of Veteran Affairs?
What's the number? On the books. We have 6 classified employees,
6, okay. And then 4 of those are Veterans Service Representatives?
accredited veteran service
Okay,
representatives.
thank you. And so just like my colleague concerned about the proportions in our community, so you'd mentioned there's 28,273 veterans on Guam, and that equates to about 15% of the population, which is way much larger than what the stateside has. And so, yeah, it's definitely there is a lot of work to be done. I mean, in speaking with the veterans, one of the main issues that I'm hearing is access to health care. And some are even, you know, the barriers are so great that they don't even seek proper care, or they might be getting not the right care. The medications they're getting doesn't match what the ailments. And so oftentimes they become disconnected and they don't seek services. So this is a really big issue, I think, and you know, when we're talking about servicing such a large proportion of our population, you know, and I do appreciate the, you know, you're looking towards greater funding. I think that's important, but I too think that, you know, with the federal agencies, the Veterans Affairs, how much are you connected to what's available? Because there are changes that are happening, right? There's something called like the Blue Water Navy veterans, which basically is that people who served on a ship, didn't touch land, can qualify for disability for Agent Orange. So is that being availed to the veterans here on Guam? And what proportion of the veterans are Vietnam veterans on Guam?
I don't have the exact proportion of the Vietnam veterans. That's actually data that we're trying to put together, not just for the Vietnam War, but for all the conflicts. But I can say, as part of the VSR's accreditation, they keep up to date on all the latest and the most available information. We are also a part of the federal VA emailing systems. So for example, you mentioned Blue Water. As soon as that notice came out, our office received it via different individuals in the office. So we always reach back to each other and make sure that, hey, did you see that email? Because this is something that we need to start preparing for and going back and taking a look at records. So the answer is yes, we do keep in touch with all the latest information.
Okay, great. Yeah, because there's a long list of diseases that are associated with it, from diabetes to Hodgkin's disease, multiple myeloma, so all of these conditions.
Different types of cancers, and
right.
yes.
Prostate cancer.
Yes.
So yeah, we want to make sure that you know, the veterans are getting the support that they you know, they need and deserve. Okay, and then also as far as workload output, so I'm looking at the budget that you guys submitted, and yeah, again, I think the numbers may be running too low in regards to you know, health services. So, you know, we're looking at this. There's a 2,300 or 3,000 projected to utilize the health services out of a population of 28,000 veterans. So is there, you know, what was that number based on?
Which number is that?
I don't know if you have the this original packet.
No.
Okay, this was the original budget submission, and it lists the workload output, and the projected level for health services is 3,000. So I'm wondering if that's an underestimated amount.
At that time, that was the number that we were looking at. Based on the COVID, but Blue Water and other activities came out after that, so that will be adjusted.
Okay.
Which is why we needed to go through and we had to make sure we had accurate files, a count of active files, so that we're able to right-size the personnel, which is why we are asking for the additional personnel.
Okay, thank you. And as far as mental health services, is there a program that could be created, or what are the type of mental health services that are available?
Senator, can you please repeat the question? I'm having a real challenge hearing today for some reason.
Maybe the question is for the health services. Does that include mental health services, or is it just?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And we work with behavioral health.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just thinking that number might be a little underestimated. And the other thing is, I've noticed here on the workload indicator, there's home loans. So, how robust is that? And how do you, where is your funding for that? Where do you get the funding to provide home loans or assistance for home loans?
Tanya, you want to share that?
Hafaday, Honorable Senators. My name is Tanya Eubanks, and I am a VA-accredited Veteran Service Representative. I'm the newest addition to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. So to answer your question when it comes to home loans, we technically, us VSRs, we don't assist in the decision-making for home loans when it comes to how much they're going to get or anything of that nature. One of our jobs is to provide guidance and to provide them the resources that they need. So each financial institution, has loan officers, and some of those loan officers are very well versed in the Veteran Home Loan Guarantee. So we refer them to that.
Okay, thank you. And do you have an estimate of how many veterans are homeless? Is there a homeless
I'm
population?
sorry, I didn't hear that.
Is there an estimated population of homelessness within the veterans?
No,
No.
none that our office is aware of. Not a definite number, if anything.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and do you keep track of so every year the National Defense Authorization Act, provides a lot of funding. How closely do you keep track for the funding concerning veterans?
Thank you, Senator. In actuality, I monitor, peruse, troll every single day. In the case if one funding drops, I am constantly looking for federal grant money, Senator. I'll tell you, the staff knows it every single day. I don't know how much more I got to say it. I have been diligently searching for money in the federal grant system.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just was thinking that perhaps through that, every year they reauthorize the National Defense Authorization Act, and if there's perhaps an opportunity to work with other jurisdictions to gain perhaps more funding for the veterans. So I don't know if you've actually looked at that. I appreciate that you are seeking federal funding, but I just think that maybe there are other opportunities too.
So actually, yes, Senator. We've actually been communicating with various states, New York, Louisiana, Utah, Alaska. So we are requesting, and this is how when I reached out, this is how we got the Veterans Information System to Guam. We're going to get that and upgrade our services. Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, and New York are helping us with our cemetery grant process. And then we have others regarding records management and just overall staffing pattern and trainings that are required for cemetery staff that we've come to find out that there is a schoolhouse for cemetery workers that we need to send our staff to. So, yes, Senator, we have been reaching out to other states for best practices and grant opportunities.
Okay. Mrs. Masi. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd ask my Vice Chair, do you have any questions, Senator Amanda, before I proceed to Senator Duenas?
Sure, thank you. I think you covered many of the questions that I had with the previous senators, but thank you very much for your presentation, for being here today. I do have a question about the equipment and capital listing. The commentary list that's included at the very back of the budget submission, a lot of notes about a casket, scissor lifter, infant and urn lowering device, and I'm wondering if this is all tied into the total of the capital and equipment outlay, or if these are additional things not included in those costs, because these are very specific items that are not line items in the budget. So can you tell me how you incorporated them, if they are incorporated?
No, it's not yet. Go ahead.
Okay, so the two sheets that are before you are not incorporated into the $700,000+ budget.
Okay,
This is what is needed at the cemetery.
okay,
And we went through and looked at all of our equipment and took a look at all the burial types that happen, timed it, reviewed it, and then reached back to the other cemeteries within the 50 states and the people that we work with and said, you know, this is what we need. Does this make sense? And they told us. And that's how we came up with these very specific lists.
And so can you provide us with the total for these items?
Total amount as in, I've already in this sheet provided the amount. So if you look at the contractual sheet that's labeled cemetery,
Oh, okay.
under Schedule D equipment, you have the amounts there.
All right, I got it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Senator, if I may,
Yes.
I know that you've been to the cemetery on certain events that had happened there, and just the physical presence of our equipment should tell the story of how desperately we need these items.
And, you know, we're faced with a problem in our public cemetery with space, and is that something that we're thinking about at the Veterans Cemetery right now? What is the capacity that we have and the plans for the future?
So, Senator, right now, at its current rate, the cemetery will reach full capacity in 3 years. And the answer is yes. We are working on 2 grants, one for the East Agatna Navy Memorial Cemetery, just for security and hardening of the property itself, because the river there is eating away. We don't want, you know, things to start slipping into, and then of course the high water mark on the beach side, right? But in regards to the PD cemetery, yes, we are looking, as I mentioned before, to renovate and build structures within the current footprint on the grant that we're applying for on July 1st.
All right, thank you very much. And I know that you mentioned that you have a lot of outreach going on from your office, and you're trying to follow the law with the veteran registry. I'm wondering if in any of this outreach you are facilitating any vaccine outreach for the veterans. Yeah, vaccines in response to COVID during this time, if we're helping to get the veterans vaccinated.
Senator, so as the state received the allotment for vaccines, the veterans are included within that count. I have recommended or suggested to have at least one day out of the week designated at a certain site, or maybe all 3 sites, north, central, south, specifically designated maybe on a Saturday that's convenient for the veterans, with the goal of achieving 100% vaccination for veterans that are unable or for some reason or another do not want to risk going to UOG or any of the other sites for fear of catching the virus themselves. But that's actually was on the table, and we haven't accomplished that yet, but I look forward to the administration carrying it out, and I hope that it does happen.
Me too. Thank you very much. And if you need support from us, please let us know. I know that that is not directly related to the budget before us, but I wanted to make sure that I asked because it's a really important issue today. And I know that everything that you're doing is for the veterans, and so this is a really important thing that I know we need to accomplish. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the time, and thank you to the team.
Thank you. Senator Duenas, do you have any questions or comments to the panel?
Just Masi, Mr. Chairman, and Director Agan, Ms. Perez, Ms. Eubanks, correct? And Ms. Agan, thank you for being here today. Yeah, I think everything's pretty much been covered, and I got to agree with the Oversight Chair. And, Tim, thanks for bringing this forward. I guess my only question would be on your supplemental request. Is Bbmr aware of this request?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because, this just seems logical. Obviously, you have the manpower needs, and it's reflected within your general fund request. And, I agree with the previous questions. I looked at Ms. Perez, and I'm sure she was saying, we cannot make a request and cut GG1s without funding. So certainly this reflects that, and that's good work. I think that this request, because just looking in your budget prior year and currently, you basically have nothing in supplies, nothing in contractual, and this equipment seems on its face very, very reasonable. So I want to work with the chairman to ensure that we can get this done, Tim. This looks very, very reasonable. It's a dignified request. I know that our chairman, your oversight basically said, yes, your desirable will be 2.5, but I think if you get this, at least during this budget cycle, you're halfway there. And we'll do what we can, right? But I wanted to close by confirming that, we have been very thoughtful on a lot of the agencies that we put our request in on the ARP. And I think it's very reasonable. I would hope that the governor will concur with the legislature's request. I'm sure there are some things, in our plan that will be adjusted, but I hope that this particular one stays because I think that it will really go a long way. And while you're applying, for those federal opportunities, Tim, Director, I just think that down the line that can supplement and sustain you going forward, because most of the grants you're going to be applying for are going to be multi-year, whereas this is a one-shot deal on the ARP, and you certainly could use the fact that sets you up, particularly at the cemeteries and the like going forward for several years, and then get some breathing room for everything else your team's going to do going down the line. So I think you've represented the veterans very well, and we hope to see it through and get at least whatever we can, but I don't see any reason why we can't, get this supplemental along with your current increase requested. I'll work hard to help you guys out with that, and I want to commend your team.
Thank you, Senator. I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Adder, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Tim, to the staff down there, I know it's not an easy task, what you guys go through every day. Currently, how many burials can you accommodate per day? Realistically now.
I'll let you answer that.
With what you have, equipment and staffing.
Realistically,
Realistically.
it depends on the type of burial. If we are going to have a crypt burial and a column burial, we can have that in one day. If we are going to have a ground burial, we will have issues, and we've had issues in the past where we have had to reach out to the different cemeteries and/or funeral homes to request to borrow, to utilize their lowering device for a ground burial, which is totally ludicrous. But we did what we need to do to ensure that our veterans and their dependents are given the proper honor.
And that is why I asked of that, because we want to make sure that you guys have the equipment that is necessary and the personnel necessary to bury our veterans. There shouldn't be a reason why we cannot bury 2 veterans or 3 per day if we have the proper equipment and the personnel to do the burials. I know that the past year and a half has been challenging with COVID and all, that at different times there was only 1 burial per day, which is unacceptable because we had families waiting and waiting and waiting just to get a schedule so that they can be buried. And I look at your supplemental here on your equipment listing, and if I was sitting in your shoes, I would be asking for 4 lowering devices. I would be asking for 4 church trucks. I would ask for a backhoe. I would ask for riding mowers, because these are the type of equipment that is needed to ensure that that veteran cemetery is properly maintained. There's no reason why we need to contract out a backhoe and be at their schedule so that we can bury our own veterans.
Did you want me to respond, Senator?
No, I don't need you to respond, Mr.
Oh,
Agustin.
that was silence? Okay.
So there's really no need for that. And I would want to work with the chairman, the oversight chair, Senator Pito Talahi, and the budget chair, Senator Joe San Agustin, to ensure that we can work to find this money that is needed to ensure that our veterans can be buried with dignity and respect that they truly deserve.
Absolutely.
Because there are a lot of us veterans who see what goes on. Mm-hmm. And I know you get criticized left to right, from front to back, and a lot of times it's beyond your control. There are some things that you get criticized for that you rightfully so get criticized, but I believe that a lot of it is uncalled for. Mm-hmm. I spent, 3 hours with you guys down at the Veterans Cemetery, going over the equipment, going over the personnel, looking at the cemetery, what needs to be done. And I know that you just wanted to do what needed to be done so that you can stay not just operational, but to continue to bury our veterans without having a pause where, well, we're out of space. We don't have the equipment to do it. We can't do it today. We have to do it tomorrow. So I hope that we can find this additional $300,000. Actually, it'd probably be more with the additional 4 riding mowers, a backhoe, church truck. You didn't put that in there, so I'm putting it in there for you. But in reality, you know, we look at and we think that it's just a burial, but the effects that it has on the families, that they know that they can't bury their loved one today because we don't have the equipment to bury them. And like you said, Ms. Lucy, there's many times you had to reach out and ask to borrow equipment. And many times we've always supported you. And we will continue to do that. Because on the private sector side, we will always do what we can for our veterans. And government now needs to step up to the plate and continue to do what we can for our veterans. And I know our chairman, our budget chair has always done what he can with the resources available. And our oversight chair for the committee has always been there. So working together with you guys, hopefully we can find this additional money, get the equipment you guys need so that you guys don't have to go, because one day the other cemeteries may be busy and they're not going to be able to lend you their equipment. And then we're going to have a situation that is even greater than what we have now. So with that, I look forward to working with the chairs to work on your budget and see what we can come up with. But thank you guys for your presentation. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaking like a veteran. Army too. Senator Tello, do you have any questions or comments you would like to pose to the panel?
Just mostly, Mr. Chair, and I'll try to make it very quick. First, I'd like to thank you so much, Tanya, for your comments, Michelle. Of course, Tim and my friend, Ms. Paris, it's good to see you. I didn't realize you were over there. In fact, there is a question I have. Based on the staffing pattern, it says it's detailed. You're detailed at the veterans. Where did you come from?
I actually do dual duties with the Office of Technology.
That's right. So I hope they get to keep you, because I know Tim, she's a gem. She really knows her stuff,
She wouldn't be at my office if I didn't know that, ma'am.
Very true. So I hope you can keep her. Earlier you said too on the employees, you have 6 classified employees, but when I looked at the chart here, I'm showing 11 employees at the veterans.
We've had some employees that are no longer working with us.
Under the Veterans Health Services, you have 4 individuals there?
We have 4
Okay.
certified veteran service representatives, yes, ma'am.
Okay, 4. And then, of course, Lucia, you're taking care of the administration of outreach. Is there anybody else in that department beside you?
That is actually under Ms. Eubanks.
Oh, okay, you're doing that one. Okay. And then Veteran Cemetery, you have how many?
We have 1 Government of Guam employee at the Veterans Cemetery,
Okay.
classified.
1, 2, 3, 4. So total is, wow, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8, right?
Well, we also have our burial technician,
Okay.
which is a classified position, and a clerk 3, which is an unclassified position.
What section is the clerk 3 located at? Are they under
He's
Veterans Health?
located at the cemetery right now
Okay,
to
so-
assist with the records.
Okay. Okay, that being said, let's go straight to Veteran Health Services. I know that you're doing everything you possibly can. I know, Tim, you've been before me in the last term, and we talked about how we need to assist our veterans, especially if they have to go off island for health care reasons, and the issues that many of these veterans have when they go to either Hawaii or California. And this area here needs a lot of assistance for our veterans. They go sometimes in the dark. They don't know who can help them or where they can stay, what they can do. So tell me, Tim, have you come up with anything yet? Is it part of the budget?
Thank you, Senator, for touching light on veterans' health. It is actually one of the greatest gaps that we have here within the state office, as we only represent two of the 3 pillars under Veterans Affairs Administration. Veterans Health Administration is, in my mind, one of the most critical aspects of Veterans Affairs. I see this every day, and I experience it as a primary caregiver to a veteran, my sister, who has stage 4 cancer.
Sorry.
And I see that I myself call the 1-800 number. I call the CBOC. I do all those things that all the veterans do in regards to veterans' health, to include pharmacy, medications that get sent to Kansas when it's supposed to come to Guam, and then, it's just the system is broken. So what I have done, and we have created 2 positions that I'm requesting for to stand up the 3rd pillar of Veterans Affairs, which is Veterans Health Administration position, basically a health liaison record referral officer Lucy has the fancy names for it, but this part of adding these two positions initially is to help us better understand, liaison, manage, guide, and actually assist these veterans with their current state on their health, prescriptions, their referrals for travel, to ensure that they receive the treatment that they are eligible for, and that they receive the correct prescriptions and treatment at the facilities that can accommodate them without causing harm to the veteran. So it's in our supplemental proposed in the staffing pattern. I know that the governor has graciously told me that, yes, Tim, we really need those two positions, and she will gladly take a look at it with Bbmr for us to get funding for it. She totally
Wait, when you
understands.
said supplemental proposal, you mean the amount of
proposal that we have-
768?
The one that we have here before you, Senator.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that's been given to us at 768?
No,
1,000?
that's not the one. The other one.
Or is that the one?
You should have a second sheet, right? Oh. Okay.
Okay.
My apologies, Senator.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much do you need for those two positions for the health liaison? Because, Tim, you know, your job over at the Veterans Affairs, not only the cemetery, which is very, very important, and I concur with Senator Atta, everything he was saying is spot on. But look at your mission and your job responsibility. It's number one, Veterans Health Services. This is very, very critical. So how much funding do you need to fund these critical positions right now?
So the position is called a Claims Process Review Officer. There'll be two of them. And with all their benefits, it'll be approximately $51,000 a year.
Each or?
Each.
Okay, so it's you need 102, right?
Yes, ma'am.
102,000 for these positions.
Right.
Very, very critical. I don't know how many veterans I've come across who need the assistance so desperately. And there are other options. The one over at the retirement First Hawaiian Bank in Mighty, you know, the veterans office there. But some people don't even know that exists or what they're entitled to. And they rely on our own local veterans office. Health is first and foremost with these individuals, and we got to give them the help they need. So I please ask you to kindly advocate as much as you can to the administration to fund these positions. And, you know, I will work with the OFB chair on this because it's so critical that they're filled, and I'm hoping you can find someone very soon. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you recognized it. That's most important. You know, coming up with a plan on how to assist them, so very good. I noticed too in the drug testing, you had funding for drug testing in 2021, but you don't have one in this time around, so is there a reason?
Actually, ma'am, it's opposite. 2021, there isn't any money. There wasn't any money allocated for drug testing.
I don't know which one I'm looking at.
I'm looking at the 768,605. So in 2020, they allocated $500, and in 2021 it was zero.
That's right. And then zero again.
And zero in 2022.
Okay. Well, there's a
But
big,
we did request.
you did request it.
Yes.
Okay. There's a big push on that, so I think it's important, you know, that is also seen. Lastly, is the miscellaneous section versus the telephone section. In 2021, for telephone utilities, it was zero, but this year you're asking for 6,000. And then in miscellaneous, it was zero in 2021, but 6,000 for 2022. Is that to cover the phone or?
No, ma'am, miscellaneous, and I think that's where they had put in different types, is for other services that may come up, such as travel, or no, I'm sorry, not travel, but other items that may be needed along the line. Utilities for telephone, power, and water are below, and that was given at 36,023 for all 3 utilities.
Combined, yeah, because last year you only requested for power at $15,858 in 2021, this year, fiscal year, but 2022, you know, it jumped to 36,023, and why is that?
Last year, I just started on with Tim in July of 2020, so that budget was before my time. So when the budget call happened, we went back and we took a look at all their records, every invoice, and that's how we came up with that amount.
Senator, if I may, those numbers are reflective of the previous submittal, and if you recall, last year's budget hearing was my 3rd day, so I did not adjust any of the numbers that were prepared prior. Do you recall? Do you recall me being here 3 days after I got moved over?
Yes, that was your first round, Senator, Director.
Right, July 2nd was his first round.
But yeah, those numbers were already there, and then when I came here for the budget hearing 3 days later, I just supported whatever they have. But this is
More accurate.
yes, more
Yeah,
accurate
juicy.
through the months
Yes.
of experiencing and understanding our deficiencies, understanding the gaps, what we need to grow, and how to provide our services efficiently. This is just, through our monthly operation and whatnot.
And that's why you don't want to lose Lucia. You have any lapses? Anticipated lapses for 2021?
No.
Falta? Okay, está. Thank you. Sitio más, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Cookie laps. Senator Brown, do you have any question or comments for the panel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I do. I just want to put a caution, not so much for the budget for Veterans Affairs, because I certainly, Mr. Chairman, will support you in addressing increases to Veterans Affairs, because I think we can all agree it's been a long time in the process of wanting to ensure that the Veterans Affairs Office has the resources it needs to assist veterans. And I speak from a very personal point of view, because my father, a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer who's a combat veteran from Vietnam, had to go through the laborious process of becoming a 100% disabled veteran. And it was a very challenging process. And it's not something the veteran themselves have to deal with. It's something their family has to deal with, and assisting them through that. Especially in our case, we had to submit several applications through the Hawaii office while documents get lost at their end, continuous follow-ups, and going through the challenges that come with that. Fortunately, before my father passed, he finally got that designation. And I think for him a personal accomplishment because of everything he had been through. Knowing that there are many other veterans, because we sat with them, we had other retired veterans in the community, through John Gerber's assistance, as you know, that we're providing assistance directly to veterans outside of the Veterans Office to assist and help facilitate, to have them have the opportunity and be aware of what other programs were available to them so that we can maximize the opportunity. Because what we don't often talk about is the amount of money that comes into Guam as a result of our veterans receiving these federal benefits that they have an opportunity and are eligible to apply for. And so certainly that is something that we all want to see, because it's a very difficult and complicated process. Particularly, those that are retired can get that assistance from Naval Hospital as retirees, but for veterans that may have served their tour, they may have been in Vietnam, they may have been in Iraq, but did not retire from the military. It's a challenging uphill battle for our veterans in our community. I think we all recognize that, and we want to see that improved. I don't have much more questions in the budget, but I am going to say one thing, because I had an incident that I was not very pleased with the Veterans Affairs Office, and this happened in December of 2019. My father's cousin, who was a retired Navy chief also, passed away. And in talking with his wife, I had asked why she didn't have her husband buried at the Veterans Cemetery. And her response was she just did not want to deal with the Veterans Office anymore. At his burial, because she decided to have him buried in Windward Hills at Our Lady of Peace, we did not have a representative from Veterans Affairs to have the honor guard there for his burial. And I have to tell you, that's one of the most frustrating moments I've ever had at a burial, especially to watch a wife who has lost her husband, who is not having the proper honor and respect due him, of which he earned. And we end up finding out after the fact that's because paperwork did move from one desk to another. And there is no way, absolutely no way your office will ever make up that dishonor. And so I hope in the future, because when we do have inefficiencies in the government of Guam, maybe we can go back and correct it. There is no way to correct that. There is absolutely no way to correct that. The fortunate thing is that the veterans and the other family members who were veterans stepped in and did what they needed to do to fold up the American flag and present it to her. But that's inexcusable, and this happened during this administration. And that's where you fall short. I mean, we can talk about the money and what we need and the equipment, and I hope also when you get your equipment that you make sure you have a better way of securing it, because I think we all have heard the stories time and time again of how unfortunately, I don't know where these people come from, and I don't even know who raised them, that come down to the Veterans Cemetery and steal the equipment. You know, no shame anymore. No shame to enter what we see as sacred ground down there. It's a bit emotional because when you live it and experience it, it's hard. It's hard when you see that disrespect in our community for those that have served. And those of us, I myself have not, but many of us are family members of those that serve. Many of us have family members. I am a regular visitor to the Veterans Cemetery. So I hope that you keep that in mind and not lose sight of that. I mean, some people, of course, they're just, it's another day at the office. But the work that you do, really, there's a lot of meaning in it. There's a lot of importance to it. And this at a time, when this legislature is pronouncing anti-military resolutions left and right. We want to be everything. We're anti-military, and then we're at the other one, we're embracing, oh my gosh, our veterans. I don't know what we are anymore sometimes. I'm pretty clear with where my positions are. I know some of us are very clear with who and what we are. But I just want you to keep that in mind in the future, so no other family in this island ever has to experience that. Because Chief Gary Brown, my father's cousin from Kentucky, who served, who lived on Guam, retired here and lived on Guam for many, loved this island, didn't get that honor. And I just hope in the future that with every burial, and I have absolutely no problem, I certainly agree with Senator Atta, to get the equipment that you need so you're never put in that situation. But please make sure we have a better way to secure it so it's not open for someone else to damage or steal. But I hope in the future no family ever, during your tenure, Mr. Guåhan, while you're there, and for all future veterans, because they're deserving of it. It's a tremendous sacrifice. It's a tremendous sacrifice to do, especially with the absence of a loved one because they're serving. They're in active duty and they're serving. Sometimes the spouse ends up being the sole parent for the longest time trying to keep things together. We're all aware of that sacrifice. We're all aware of that loss. I mean, my godfather's buried there. He was the last Chamorro son to be killed in action in Vietnam. He died one day before his 22nd birthday. So please, it's not just the money aspects. These things are they're very close to all of us. So I just hope that you and your staff, please keep that in mind, to make sure that your staff also recognizes the importance of the work that they do, and respect due to the families and to our veterans that have served. Because I'll tell you, I hope I never see that again. That disappointment in the wife of my dad's cousin, to have experienced that at graveside as well. You don't know whether to be sad, angry, or whatever it is, the emotion you can possibly feel from that. It was just so disappointing at a time when an honor, and every time I'm there for a funeral, when there's a military honor guard, it's a very emotional moment. Because not only do you recognize the loss of their passing, you stand there with pride for the work and what they did in their lifetime, that they're deserving of such an honor. So I hope your office, please make sure that extra efforts are put in place to ensure that at the time of the burial of all our veterans on Guam, that they're given the due honor that they deserve, and that your staff properly coordinates and follows up, even double, triple follows up to make sure no family in Guam has to go through that again. With that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Mr. Uggan, I'm going to ask that you please, I got the original document that you guys submitted, your budget. That's why I asked the question about how many classified, unclassified. Started with 1, then ended up being 6. I'm not going to do the math. You fix the document so we get it right. Okay, that's 1. Number 2, you're basically asking for $391,000 more. Okay? That equates up to 1.1, exactly what Senator Dueñas said. You're halfway there to your 2 million. Hopefully the governor gives you the funds that we're asking her to give you. Then we don't have to discuss any more money. That will take care of you for a long time. It'll actually help out when you're doing your grant application. But please update that and give us the proper letter requesting for the 391. Okay, other than, the piecemeal, so we can make it look clean. Because so far I haven't heard anything negative from my colleagues. And that's a good sign, because you have more than enough here to add this to your budget. And we want to help you, and I expect to hear from you, Tim, when you ask for how I can help you. I'll give you cases of water. So will my fellow veteran, Senator Pido and Senator Ada. You got 3 Army here. Not a problem. Even though you're Air Force, we understand, Tim. We're good. Okay? This will complete the budget discussion on the Department of Veterans Affairs. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Agustin at gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, Marine Corps Drive, Timogen, Guam. Sidzus Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing, and for the panel, thank you very much, ladies. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 55-36 COR relative to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs is now adjourned. It is 3:31, and that completes this, and we will take a good 10-minute recess before we begin Parks and Rec. Thank you, Tim. Take care. Be safe.